The last topic for this revision session will be VAT. And VAT is also one of those topics for paper 2 that will be done in grade 11, and you will always also see it next year in grade 12. So let's look at VAT. First thing, what does VAT stand for? Value added tax. That sometimes can be a short question in a paper. Bonus mark. Why do we have VAT? Why does the government charge VAT? Obviously, that is revenue for the business, for the government, income for the government, so that they can supply infrastructure, so that they can supply certain products and services to the public. Registration, you have compulsory registration and you also have voluntary registration. If your turnover is more than R1 million per year, then it is compulsory. Then you must register as a VAT vendor. If your turnover is more than 50,000 but less than the 1 million, then you can apply to register as a VAT vendor. That is then your voluntary registration as a VAT vendor. A VAT vendor means that you get the VAT on behalf of SARS, and then that must be paid over to SARS. We have zero-rated items, exempted and standard rate. These three, sometimes they will ask you the three rates, to mention the three rates of VAT. And then, yes, you remember zero-rated and exempted items, and then you forget about this last one, our standard rate, which is the 15%. Zero-rated and exempted items, often you get confused between these two, but a zero looks like that. And when you see the zero, you see eggs. And then you remember, okay, this is for the necessities. This is for items that most people need: bread, eggs, milk, fruit, vegetables. The VAT charged on that is 0%. And then we've got the exempted. That's the other one. No VAT charged on school fees at a public school, a state-owned school. So zero-rated, always see the zero, see the X, then you can differentiate between those two. Output versus input. Output VAT is charged. It's not paid, it's charged on goods sold. So as we as a business sell, we charge VAT, but that VAT doesn't belong to us, it belongs to SARS. And input VAT is paid. We as a business, when we purchase trading stock, we paid input VAT. And because we are registered as a VAT vendor, it means we can claim that back from SARS. So output is charged on what we sold, and input is paid on what was purchased. And obviously the amount payable to SARS, the output VAT minus the input VAT. This is what we received, we charged. So we've received this VAT on behalf of SARS. Doesn't belong to us, we must pay that to SARS. The input VAT is what we paid. And because we are a VAT vendor, we can say to SARS, please, the VAT that we paid on this, we can claim back. And the difference between the two must be paid over to SARS. Obviously, if the input VAT is more than the output VAT, then it will be payable by SARS. Then SARS owes us that money. So read carefully when we do calculations, payable to SARS or payable by SARS. Inclusive versus exclusive. Inclusive means the VAT is included in that amount. When we refer to VAT, without VAT it's 100, then we add the VAT of 15 in order to get the inclusive amount of 150. Now we always want to calculate the VAT amount, so that will be the question mark, the one that we want to calculate. If it's inclusive, we know the 115 is given. So we take the amount given, multiply by the unknown, what we want to know, divide by what we have. We have the 115 because it's inclusive. If it's exclusive, it means VAT is not included. So they give us amount without VAT. Again, we want to calculate the 15, but now they've given us the 100. So we multiply by the unknown and we divide by what was given, the known exclusive. So these are basically the two calculations. Obviously, if they give you the inclusive amount and the exclusive amount, the difference between the two will be the VAT. Then you don't even have to multiply, then you can just subtract the two amounts. Amounts that will increase the amount payable to SARS. In these activities, we just want to calculate how much money are payable to SARS or how much money does SARS owe us. So which items will increase the amount payable to SARS? Sales. When we sell, we charge output VAT. We must pay it over to SARS because it belongs to SARS. Discount received. When we bought on credit, we claim back the input VAT. But then we receive discount from our creditors, so we owe the VAT on that discount again to SARS. The same with returns to creditors and then bad debts recovered. I will show you the reasoning when we get to the next one. Drawings, because the owner is the final user. He is the final user of these products. He is paying the VAT. During the whole process, as value is added, SARS gets money. So it will be that SARS gets money on a continuous basis, but at the end, it's only the final user that pays the VAT. And because the owner is taking these products for his own use, we say that that VAT, we subtract it as input when we bought that, but now we're not selling it, so we're not charging VAT. But the VAT that we claimed must be added again. It will increase the amount payable to SARS. Decrease. What will decrease the amount that we owe SARS? Purchases, because we can claim that VAT back. Also discount allowed. When we sold, it increased, but now we allow discount, so it will decrease the amount payable to SARS. The same with returns by debtors as well as bad debts. If you have the VAT control account, increases on the credit side, decreases on the debit side. If we sell, whether we sell cash or on credit, it will increase the amount payable to SARS because we've charged output VAT. That is obviously if we registered according to the invoice base. If we registered according to the payment basis, then obviously once payment takes place, then only do we calculate the VAT. So this is only applicable for invoice base. When we bought in the CPJ or in the CJ or in the petty cash journal, we can claim that VAT back. So that will decrease the amount payable to SARS. That's actually all you want to know, that you have to know. Sales increase, purchases decrease. Now the debtors return goods. DJ, it increased, so DAJ will decrease, returns from debtors. When we purchased CJ, it will decrease, but now we return goods, CAJ will increase. We purchased, but we received discount, discount received. We sold on credit, it increased, but now we allow discount, discount allowed. We sold on credit, it increased, but now there's bad debts. So bad debts will decrease the amount payable. But now that bad debts, we receive a debtor that was previously written off as irrecoverable. We wrote off as bad debt, but now we receive it. So bad debts recovered will increase the amount payable to SARS. And then we know drawings will always increase, because when we purchased that, we asked SARS for that money back, but now the owner is taking it, so the drawings will increase. So that's why I say you actually only have to remember that purchases decreases and sales increases the amount payable to SARS. And then you can work from there whether it must increase or decrease. The last thing on VAT is ethics. They will ask you questions on somebody is approaching the owner and offering him to pay less for certain products, but then with a condition that there will be no invoice. And obviously that person wants to keep that VAT for himself, not paying it over to SARS. If there is no invoice, there is no paper trail. So that is not only not ethical, but that's also illegal. VAT belongs to SARS. It doesn't belong to you. So whenever there's a question about how you can prevent paying VAT to SARS, that is unethical. You can be sent to prison for that. That's fraud. So remember, always don't see that as a bargain. Yes, I will accept that offer because I pay so much less and I can make a greater profit. No, it's not ethical, it's fraud. Look at activity 2, page 18 on the activity book, and page 16 in your answer book for some calculations on VAT. We are looking at the information of in-out stores for the VAT period ended the 31st of July. That means the VAT period started on the 1st of June, because we always work in 2-month periods. There are exceptions where VAT must be paid over and recorded every month or every 6 months or only once a year, but the standard one is every 2 months. The standard rate, 15%. Theory question. Explain why the government implemented VAT in South Africa. That will be an additional source of revenue for the government on a regular basis, not only at the end of the process when that final product is sold to the final user. To fund infrastructure, to provision of public goods and services, to provide basic or essential services. And then this is indirect tax. It means it's paid by all. And it's an easy and a quick way to generate extra funds. If we talk about direct tax will be on the income that you receive. That will also be, so personal income tax, pay as you earn, as well as company tax, income tax paid by businesses on their profit. That is paid directly to SARS. Indirect is when I spend money and I pay via the supermarket. I pay the supermarket, but the supermarket will pay it over to SARS. That is why it is called indirect tax. The second question, we have to explain why some products are zero rated, and then when you're not certain what is zero rated, you see the egg, you see basic necessities that must be affordable to all communities, and then the zero rated items are regarded as essential items, basic needs. If you go to the shop again, please look at your slip that you receive. At the bottom, there will be hashtags and asterisks. And then they will say exempted or zero rated. And on your slip, you will see these indications. And that will be the products that is either exempted. They say, sometimes they use the term exempted, but it's actually zero rated. and it will indicate that on your cash register slip. So next time, look at that slip to see if you can see that. The last one, we have to calculate the amount of VAT payable to or receivable from SARS. You can do the VAT control account, but we've given you a table for that. The amount due to SARS. So that is how much we owe SARS, 14,000. First thing, we have to calculate, because we're only interested in this, in the VAT amount. So this is the 15. Excluding VAT is 100, including VAT is 115. For credit sales, we have excluding. So 180,000 times 15 is what we want to calculate. Excluding is the 100. So that will give you a 27,000. Here they gave us including and excluding. So we can just calculate the difference between these two, and that will give us the VAT of 13,500. And in this one, we've got the including amount. So the amount 28750 times 15, that is what we want to calculate. What do we have? We have the 115. So that will be 3750. So there we have our VAT amounts. We know that sales will increase the amount payable to SARS. We know that purchases will decrease. Return to creditors, we bought on credit, now we return, so it will increase. Stock returned by debtors, we sold, now it's returned, it will decrease. Discount allowed to debtors, we sold, now we allow discount. And stock taken by the owner will always increase because we purchased and now he's the final user. So if you put that in the table, cash sales, now see this as increase and decrease. So sort of ignore the input-output. Because if the input decreases, we can set it off against the VAT input. If the VAT input decreases, we can set it off against the VAT output. But at the end, we want to calculate how much we owe SARS. So make that a plus and make that a minus. Cash sales. We've calculated, or they've given us the 33,000. The 27,000 we've calculated. Cash purchases, credit purchases will decrease the amount, 18,000 and 13,500, the one that we calculated. Stock returned to creditors will increase the amount payable to SARS. Stock returned by debtors, we sold, now they return, so it will decrease. Discount allowed by debtors, we started off by increasing, now we allow discount, so it will decrease. And then the stock taken by the owner for personal use will increase. So instead of showing that 3,750 as a minus there, showing that one as a minus, a minus, a minus, we just show it in the opposite column as a plus and a minus. If we add this, it adds up to 38,100. The increase 64,100. But we must still calculate the amount payable to SARS. They started by saying that we owed SARS 14,000. This is the one that you sometimes forget. You know you must take the output to be added and the input or the decrease. You remember these two, but then you forget about the 14,000 that was given at the beginning. And there we see we owe SARS 40,000. This is payable to SARS. Output increases, input decreases. So we already owed him 14,000. Now this will increase the amount payable, this will decrease. So we owe SARS 40,000 rand for that. And then the last question, they said the business owner has voluntarily registered for VAT. And what can you deduce about his annual income? It is between 50,000 and 1 million. If it was 1 million and above, it would have been compulsory registration. But now it was voluntary, so it is between 50,000 and 1 million. That then concludes our revision session for the 3rd and the 4th term for the grade 11 year. Good luck for the rest of the year. Please make sure that you study, make sure that you practice. Accounting is all about practicing. All the topics that we did today will be seen in paper 2. So this will be covered in paper 2, subjects or topics that will go through to next year to grade 12. So make sure you understand it already in grade 11 so that you don't have problems with that in grade 12. Good luck for the rest of the year. Good luck for your preparation for the exam. And may you all achieve very good marks because of your hard work.